There's a mistake we made as government, and not to disclassify an intelligence document about what happened in Alexander 2008. That thing was organized to drive the Zimbabweans out of the country back to Zimbabwe because there were elections in Zimbabwe. It was people who were being driven out, they were going to vote against Bob Mugabe then. An intelligence report which has got the names and the dates and venues where people met and planned this and so on. It's presented as a xenophobic attack by the people of Alex against it. It was wrong.
Thabo Mbeki versus Operation Dudula. Who is to blame for South Africa's crisis? South Africans are angry. Angry about unemployment, crime, poor service delivery, and a government that seems unable to deliver. Out of this frustration, movements like Operation Dudula have gained traction, pointing fingers at foreign nationals as the root cause of our crisis. But former President Thabo Mbeki has stepped in with a powerful reminder, one that challenges this narrative at its core. Welcome back to Inkari, It's Time. In today's episode, we unpack Thabo Mbeki's views on foreign nationals in South Africa and why he believes blaming migrants is a dangerous distraction from the real crisis in our economy and governance.
The so-called undocumented people. Since the beginning of diamond mining in the 19th century, later gold mining and all of that, this country has seen lots of Africans from the rest of the continent moving to this country. The issue of many other Africans being present with us is not new. And historically, the indigenous African community has never ever been hostile to other Africans coming from other African countries. Take the old township, Alexander Township in Johannesburg. That township has always had people from all over the continent. With no friction, with no nothing. Historically, the African community here has never been xenophobic about other Africans. So, 2008, we are way past 6 o'clock now. 2008, all manner of trouble breaks out in Alexander Township in Johannesburg. Attack on these foreigners, particularly Zimbabweans. Then it spread elsewhere. Xenophobia, Afrophobia. So me, I say, when I saw that thing, I was in government, I was president. I say, but this is not Alexander Township. Alex for decades has had Zimbabweans and Mozambicans and this and that and that, and never ever this conflict. Why?
Context. Why Dudula is popular. Let's be clear. Operation Dudula didn't come out of nowhere. People are frustrated. Millions of South Africans are unemployed. Housing shortages are at a crisis level. Crime is out of control. Load shedding cripples the economy. Clinics and hospitals are overwhelmed, and service delivery has collapsed in many municipalities. When all this frustration boils over, people look for someone to blame, and foreign nationals become the easy target. Mbeki's intervention. Now, let's hear from Thabo Mbeki. The former president has weighed in with a different diagnosis. He says, and I quote, "South Africa has got many challenges of economy, such as unemployment. Our economy is in crisis. I am the former president of this country. Therefore, I speak with authority when I say, you can never convince me that this economy is in crisis because of foreigners." In other words, Mbeki is saying, don't confuse the symptoms with the disease. The real problem is structural: mismanagement, corruption, and failure of leadership.
We've got many challenges of the economy here. Unemployment, very serious problem. Economy is in crisis. I'm a former president of this country, and you'll never ever convince me that this economy is in crisis because of foreigners. It's not true. It's not true. It's because there are certain things that have happened with regard to the economy which have produced economic crisis, resulting, among other things, in unemployment. So we've got to solve this problem. We've got to deal with this economy and deal with these problems of unemployment. At the same time, the country has got laws about migration of people. Let's enforce the laws. You can't just come in illegally. Yeah. So the thing about the registration of people undocumented is correct. But I'm saying, like we have an economic crisis, it's incorrect to think that that economic crisis is caused by people who have come from the rest of the world.
African solidarity. Mbeki also reminded us of history. He said, and I quote, "Ordinary Africans across this continent contributed to our liberation. They developed fondness with South Africa. Once we got liberated, it was only natural for them to cross the border and visit South Africa. No amount of border electric fence security will stop Africans from coming to South Africa." This is a profound statement. It challenges the idea that migrants are invaders. Instead, it frames them as part of a long-standing African solidarity that helped us during apartheid.
That's the challenge, the real challenge we face. It doesn't matter, I'm saying. It doesn't matter how many electrical fences you build. You are not going to stop these Africans coming here. So our challenge is to say, how do we deal with that reality? One of the things that happened, colleagues, very important in my view, is that the continent genuinely took it as one of its responsibility to help us to fight and defeat apartheid. Ordinary citizens would contribute monies to go into a common fund in order to support the struggle here in Namibia and Zimbabwe. That became a people's issue. Wherever you went around the continent, I've got Welly Lentlapo here, former ambassador. Wherever you went on the continent, 1980, 1985, the focus on South Africa among the ordinary people was very high. The consequence of it is that when South Africa becomes liberated, the same masses, they say, I'm going to South Africa. It's natural. They develop that kind of very fondness and closeness to this country. So we must go to this country.
Enforcement versus reality. Mbeki doesn't deny the need for law enforcement. He says we must enforce immigration laws. But he also shared a lesson from his time in office. I quote, "We tried to deport undocumented Mozambicans in large numbers for about 2 months. We stopped the program when we saw that barely 2 weeks after deportation, these people were back. Same with Zimbabweans. They will come to Lindela Repatriation Center before Christmas to confess that they are illegal. We will deport them at our expense, and barely 2 days after New Year, they were back." The message: deportations alone are not a solution. As long as the push factors in their countries and the pull factors in South Africa exist, migration will continue.
When we're new in government here, issue was raised about there are many Mozambicans who come across the border and get employed by the farmers in the then Eastern Transvaal, paid low wages, outcompete the South African farm workers and all that. must deal with this matter. So we agreed, and then a big movement took place to deport these Mozambicans back to Mozambique. I think we continued that program for 2 months at best and stopped it. The reason we stopped it is because the following week after they've been deported, they are back in the country. Or you had Lindela, this place they call Lindela for people who are being deported. Come Christmas time, the Zimbabweans would go to Lindela to say, I'm illegal. So that the government must convey them at its cost, transform them back to Zimbabwe. 2 days after New Year, they are back. How do you deal with this situation?
Special report reference. Mbeki even pointed to research that policymakers often ignore. He mentioned Judge Navi Pilay's special reference group on migration and community integration in KZN. That report, available online, provides real data, stories, and recommendations about how South Africa can integrate migrants rather than criminalize them.
And then, my colleagues, you might also remember that a few years back, there were similar so-called xenophobic attacks in Durban. What the provincial government did there was to appoint a commission to go into that, which was chaired by Judge Navi Pillay. You'll find that report on the internet. And they deal with this question. They say the reality of the matter is, you've got many migrants coming from the continent and elsewhere who come here, and there's no way you're going to stop it. The issue is, how do we deal with these things who become new citizens of South Africa, new residents? We've got to find a way of dealing with it. And practical steps, I'm saying that Navi Pillay report is very important. It addresses this question. As an African, I belong to this old tradition. As in our culture, you are never ever hostile to a stranger. A visitor, a visitor who comes and get the best food in the house. It's a frame of mind. Lento kuthiwa ubuntu. I hope that the matter will get discussed and then resolved in that context.
So here's the big question. Do we keep scapegoating migrants for our unemployment and service delivery failures? Or do we confront the real root causes? Government failure, corruption, and economic mismanagement. Thabo Mbeki is clear. Blaming foreigners is a distraction. The real crisis is at home. But what do you think? Does Thabo Mbeki's perspective resonate with you? Or do you believe Operation Dudula is right to put the spotlight on migrants? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Inkari It's Time. Thanks for watching and take care.